Hi, I'm Manhattan Prep instructor Ryan Jacobs, and today I've got these great looking apples, and I want to make an apple cake. The problem is the recipe calls for a 9-inch pan, and all I have is this 8-inch pan. So I got to scale down my recipe. Fortunately, there's an easy trick. I'm going to show you how to do it. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the size of the cake pan that you're going to use, in my case 8 inches, and you're going to square that to get 64. And then you take the size of the pan that the recipe calls for, which is 9 inches, and you square that to get 81. And then all you do is you do 64 divided by 81. And I calculated that earlier, I used a calculator, so that's 0.79. And now I look at my recipe and notice how most of the ingredients are listed in weights. So for instance, 200 grams of white rice flour. So I take that 200 grams and I'm just going to multiply it by 0.79. And that's the amount of white rice flour that I'm actually going to want. And then I do that with all the other ingredients as well. So this is the full ingredient list after I've done the calculation, and I put a little bit of direction just to remind myself what to do. All right, so I got my recipe taped to the cabinet here. I got some of my ingredients out. Let's get baking. All right, so we're gonna start with some yogurt. Put that in the bowl. And we've got some baking powder and baking soda and a little xanthan gum, which binds everything together. And then we're gonna add a little vanilla and crack 2 eggs into the bowl. And that's gonna be our wet mix. Now we got to get a stand mixer bowl. This is going to be the dry mix. So we start with some rice flour, then a little bit of oat flour, give it some flavor. And now we add some sugar, a lot of sugar. And we're going to put in some butter. That's the next ingredient. And a little pinch of salt. And that dry mix is gonna go into the stand mixer. We're gonna beat it until the butter is all incorporated, looks kind of like breadcrumbs. And then we're gonna scoop in the wet mix, mix that all together. And then we pour it in the pan on top of our apples. And underneath the apples is some brown sugar, cinnamon, and butter. And then we put that all in the oven. And when it comes out, we're gonna flip it over. So all of that apple stuff is now on the top. So here it is. This is our finished apple upside down cake in an 8-inch pan, not a 9-inch. So that's it. You don't need to change anything else. The time you bake it stays the same. The temperature you bake it at stays the same. You just scale the ingredients using that multiplication factor that you found earlier. And this tends to work best, by the way, with plain like round cake pans or sheet cake pans. It doesn't work so well if you're making like a bundt or a tube cake or something like that. So try and stick to the simple ones, but it works really well for those. So here's a quick math note for you about that formula I mentioned to you. The reason you can't just multiply by 8/9 is because that would be the ratio of the lengths, in other words, the diameters or the radii of the 2 cake pans. But what you actually want to do is change the surface area of your cake. And you might remember the formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. So that's why you need to square both dimensions before you do your ratio. Don't forget to subscribe for more math in the kitchen. And check out the description below to learn more about Manhattan Prep.